What is happening, travel junkies? This is Matt Javit. You're traveling fool around the world, loving life. Just got back from the Philippines, 2 weeks in the Philippines. I'll do a couple episodes on that, on a few different topics. But today, I wanted to talk about the coronavirus disease. COVID-19 is what it's being labeled, based on our exposure to it while traveling in Asia, and just give you some background because I know there's probably a lot of people right now that are worried, and it's going to be a moving conversation because obviously as the disease continues to spread, people have different points of view on their travel plans and how they want to go about it. But I just wanted to share our experience in the Philippines and everything we went through. Okay, again, Matt Javit is my name. I'm a traveler. Been over 50 countries at this point. I'm the host of World Barbershop Adventures on Amazon Prime, and just use this platform and passportjoy.com to share advice on travel. Let's just get into it real quick. Again, spent 2 weeks with my brother in the Philippines. Amazing trip, tons of fun. Love this country. I'll get into that in a future episode, but just want to touch on this real quick. So as we were going into this region, we knew obviously the coronavirus hit the media in about mid-January. It became a pretty big deal rather quickly. All the numbers continue to roll out. And as we were making our plans, we just kept an eye on it, and we just wanted to be extremely smart about how we did it. We were flying through Tokyo on the way there, and we end up flying back through Korea. So we got a little bit of exposure into other Asian countries as well. But in our packing process, we knew about what we were going to get into at a high level. So my brother and I, we both got masks. We ordered masks apparently before the trend, because I've heard rumors that it's really difficult to get a mask on Amazon and other outlets in the States now. And there was absolutely a mask shortage in the Philippines when we were there. But we both packed masks. A good mask. As you know, Nikki, my wife, is a pharmacist, and she told me what exact mask to get. So we purchased the right mask. I'll put a link in that in the show notes just so you can see the type of stuff that I got. And then we did other stuff like hand sanitizers, some stuff that I do on all my trips anyway. Hand sanitizer for not only the flights, but when you land, just to keep your hands clean before a meal. If you're out walking around all day, I always keep hand sanitizer in my backpack. Pull it out before a meal, because in a lot of Asian countries, you eat a lot of food with your hands in anyway. So I always had the hand sanitizer ready. Seat wipes, or just sanitation wipes in general. Packed a bunch of those just so when you get into a new Airbnb, hotel, just do your own quick wipe of countertops, toilet seats. If you're in situations at the airport, you got to use a toilet seat, or at a restaurant, a toilet seat quickly. You just want to be able to wipe stuff down around you. And that's how I use the sanitation wipes, just to make sure things are clean, and using 2 and 3 levels of sanitation while you're doing things. And I also like the sprays, the cleaning sprays, to keep things clean as well. So those are the things we did as we were packing to get ready. And then again, the mask. So just a quick nugget on the mask. In America and in Western culture in general, we don't wear masks a lot. If you've seen any of the World Barbershop Adventures videos, you'll see a lot of the barbershops in the Asian countries wear masks, and sometimes even gloves when they cut hair in the shops. That's because masks are much more common in Asian countries. I don't know exactly how that originated. My guess is it's just the high volume of people. We don't necessarily understand how big these cities are and how many people are in these cities. For example, Manila in the Philippines was about 15 million people. Now that's comparable to anything in America. You look in New York City and in LA, at their peaks, they're probably around that. If you spread them all out, they could be even a little bit higher than that. But that's the size of these cities. And when you're talking about like China and India and some of these other countries, you're 15 and 20 million people there's many cities this size. So when it comes to masks, I think it's a number thing. I really do. I think it's because they're around so many people and you get exposed to so many people on a daily basis that the mask is worn for prevention, but also as a courtesy, because the way that some of these cultures are extremely courteous in their day-to-day just interactions, that the mask is actually a preventative if they're coughing. So it keeps the cough in their mask and the sneeze in their mask. So it's more of a courtesy to the people they're around rather than preventing them getting germs on them. Yes, it does work that way as well, but it's also like, hey, I'm doing this for you so you don't get my spit on you. That's a gross way to say it, but that's how they look at it. So we see masks as like, why is that person wearing a mask and nobody wears a mask? And I'll touch on that a little bit on my return home, but I think you need to change your idea on what these things are for and how you think about it. So as we land, there's masks everywhere in general, just because, like, as I'm pointing out, we see that, but there's also other preventative measures that are going on in the Philippines at the time. So we had situations where, as we're getting into the Airbnb because we stayed in an Airbnb that was in Manila, that was part of a big condo complex. And as we were walking in that place, they were doing heat checks on our foreheads. They got these little heat guns and they were checking every person coming through the door. They just do your forehead real quick and they would look at the number and they would tell you your number so you know that, like, you're at a good temperature or whatnot. And I didn't ever saw a person that was quarantined from this measure or from this practice, but they were doing that. And it just wasn't our spot. It was over the 2 weeks, we saw it increase from hotels. We visited a couple of casinos. We saw it over and over many times. And then we even saw some high-end devices where they were taking body checks as well and looking at body temperature. So it continued to elevate as we were there. And actually on February 2nd, as we were there, the Philippines put a ban on travel from China. So they banned China, Hong Kong, and Macau as we were in the country. And this is a big deal because China, when it comes to travel and tourism, represents almost 3% of the GDP in the Philippines. So that is a really big number, and that's a huge action. If you know much about the president of the Philippines, he is a man of action. He does things from his gut, and he makes these. And that was a call that he made. And it's still, as this podcast, they're starting to open up a little bit, but overall, they continue to stand firm on this travel ban. So all these things were happening as we were going, and the numbers were continuing to come out. There was a case in the Philippines while we were there as well. It just gets a little uneasy, but at the same time, everything was smooth, and it was just kind of, you just stayed conscious of what you were doing, kept clean, and moved about our day. I had a dinner and a late night. We were in Malbo in Cebu Island, and I had a dinner with me and my brother had a late night. It was probably like a 10 o'clock dinner. And the place was packed. It was an outdoor fish spot, really cool. And our table that we sat at had enough room for probably 4 or 5 people. And me and Chuck were taking up 2 spots. So there was this couple that was looking for a seat. So we invited them over. They sat with us. He was Russian and teaching English to Chinese kids in Shanghai, China. She is an Italian university student doing a semester abroad in Shanghai at the university there on an exchange program. And as I was talking to them and understanding why they were on vacation and whatnot, the root reason was essentially they left China because the schools were shutting down. The schools had shut down. And he basically said all the private schools in Shanghai had shut down at that point for at least 6 weeks. At that point, it was at least 6 weeks. So this is a city of 22 million people. And this is 3 hours from the center of the coronavirus outbreak. And they shut down the private schools there. So for me, that was kind of a wake-up call, because you got a city that large with all these kids now at home for weeks on end. And now that her university is shut down as well, so she had left. And it was just to hear them talk about it and hear like a city of that size basically on lockdown, and then other cities like theirs around there, it was a little alarming. It really changed my perspective on this entire disease, just hearing it from somebody that was in the heart of it. And we've got some other traveler friends that we've seen some notes from where they spent 3 months in China, and they shared an email where the family that they stayed with a lot had essentially now lost their business because just inactivity in the city. And they were basically on lockdown at their house, and so much lockdown that you can't even really walk the streets because the police and the government officials will make sure that you go back home as quickly as possible. So you just, between that and that email and just seeing these things, it became it changed my perspective on it a little bit, probably a lot. And then the markets, the food markets, so they think this thing originated in some market in China, but I'm a huge fan, as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of markets, going out and seeing how the locals eat and buy their food, and fish markets, meat markets. And if you've never done this, highly recommend it. If you travel to anywhere that's kind of foreign to you and they have an outdoor market. In America, we've got all these amazing farm and food markets on our weekends where folks from the region around us will bring in amazing like jams and fruits and vegetables. If you had a chance to walk that, and there's like crafts and arts and stuff. So markets around the world are just a great way to understand the local culture, and it's amazing in some of these other places where it's so different. So if you have a chance to do that, highly recommend it. Me and Chuck did that in Marlborough as well, and saw their local market, which was fantastic. And for me, like when I see the markets, and I see that the food is coming from literally 100 yards away in some cases. I mean, that's how close this market was to the ocean. They bring the food in, they prepare it, they cut it up, and they sell it to the locals, whether it's for restaurants or just local purchasers. And I mean, how much more fresh can you get? Now, maybe there's a hand or two touching it, but when you think about the process we go through in America to purchase food, I mean, there's a lot more hands touching the food. And you can say, well, yeah, but we use sanitation guidelines. There's different ways that we get it. But man, is that really the case? Like if you go into your local grocer and there's people behind the counter and you're asking for a pound of roast beef, how many people have walked by that? How sanitary are the people behind the counter? Like we want to put judgments on other cultures around the world, but think about how it relates back to us. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying that you gotta look at it kind of even. Now, yes, some of these markets are crazy around the world, and the sanitation isn't great because then you see animals walking around these markets, and sometimes you just don't know where it's been. But for the most part, and how many times are you actually going to one of these markets to say, hey, give me a pound of that because I'm going to go back to my Airbnb and cook it? It's mostly you're taking it in the experience to just see their culture and understand it better. So I think we need to just watch the judgment a little bit about those things, because unless you've been there and you understand the cleanliness of some of these places, some of these markets are really clean. And the one we experienced in Mobile was that it was extremely clean, and it didn't seem like there was anything wrong going on there. So just to fast forward a little bit, our trip home, like I said, we flew through Korea, and as we were flying through Korea, as we land from Manila to Korea, they are in the big suits, the big, if you ever seen any of the movies where the people wear the big masks and the big suits to combat disease, these guys at the airport had that, and they were directing our line from Manila to one line and another flight from China to another line, where they were basically, I don't know if they're getting like a different level of search or body temperature check, but they were definitely there to sort out the travelers. So that was a little bit alarming. But again, I wore my mask the entire time during the flights coming home. And then when I landed in Indianapolis, still had my mask on. The stares that I got in the Indianapolis airport were pretty funny. Both on the airport, on plane going, taking the flight, and then as I walked through the airport in Indy going home, people were just not comfortable with masks for some reason. And I think we need to get used to that, because I think that in some of these areas where we're surrounded by a lot of people, I think masks are important, and we might want to consider wearing them a little bit more, especially when you get a situation like this where it's not necessarily labeled a pandemic yet, but there was the doctor that did the Netflix documentary Pandemic that just came out, Dr. Saira Madad. She just said that she believes this is going to become a pandemic in the coming months. So as these things happen, you might want to just change your outlook on masks and hygiene and how you're going about your day to day. But when it comes to travel, just be smart, keep an eye on it. I'm not sure if we were considering going to the Philippines in the next couple of months, would we do it or not? I don't know if it would change our opinion, if our families would think differently if we were going to go and they would worry about it. But it didn't affect our opinion going there at that time. But you just got to make your own decision on it. My recommendation would be to book directly with the hotels and the airlines, just in case you have to adjust. It's so much easier to adjust if you're not working through a third party. I did have a hotel stay. Me and Chuck changed our plans a little bit. Some of it was based on this. Some of it was based on just the fun we were having in Cebu. But we decided to pull back and not go to a hotel that I had in Boracay. And I talked to them about the reasoning, and they gave me my money back because I booked directly with them. The airlines you can adjust as well, and I would absolutely get travel insurance if you're booking out going to Asia in the next few months. Definitely get travel insurance because you don't know what's going to happen from the potential travel bans in these countries, or even how you want to change your plans. So definitely you get travel insurance and just keep an eye on it. There's a lot of things that are popping up. I'm gonna put an article. There's an article I read that discusses how the numbers are being portrayed in China and the reality of what these numbers might reflect and the truthfulness in them. And this really changed my point of view on what we're hearing there and the believability of some of these numbers. And from the stories that I'm hearing from the Russian and Italian that I met and the email that I read, and then with this article kind of compounding it just changed my outlook on what's really going on in China. So I'll put that link in the show notes as well, something you can check out. But that is it. As always, I love travel. I love people everywhere. It's a scary thing going on. We just got to keep an eye on it. And I know a lot of people are kind of nervous about travel with it. So I just wanted to put this out there as quickly as possible. I'm going to do another podcast soon about the Philippines. We freaking loved our trip. And again, if you like this show, if you like the value I'm creating here, please leave a review. If you leave a review after hearing this or upcoming episode, I'm going to read these reviews online, good or bad. I'm going to read the reviews, so please post them, whether it's on, I need some Apple reviews is what I need, because I haven't got a ton of those lately. So I would love to see an Apple review. Go to Apple, put a review down, give me the 5 stars if you like it, and then I'll read your review. We're downloaded in over 90 countries now, so you're going to be your name will be heard in over 90 countries around the world. And I just want to get some reviews out there. Or if you want to leave a review on Amazon for the World Barbershop Adventure Series, Season 3 is now out there. Check it out. Leave a review there as well. That's a great way to help me. And you'll get your name read globally. How fun will that be? And that is it, folks. Thanks so much for listening. I hope life is great wherever you are. Plan that big trip. We got some cool stuff coming up. I'm so excited. And hopefully I'll see you on the road someday soon. Later.